Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Hey guys, welcome back to season 5, Two Guys in Hockey Talk, brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers of the Michigan Independence Hockey League. They're in their inaugural season. They've already finished their first game. Check it out on our Facebook page. But check it out, 4 years in, semi-pro league. Glad to be sponsoring them now. So if you're following from that area, guys, thanks a lot. Well, Pavel, how you doing, man?
I am wonderful. I am in beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver, specifically West Van. I'm enjoying my vacation. I'm a little bit on holidays right now, as one would say, and I am celebrating my 37th birthday. For all of you, those of you who want to know how old I am, and that is how old and I'm celebrating. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with you, Evan, instead of actually celebrating and partying with family and friends. So you're welcome.
Okay. Well, then let's celebrate. Let's pop one. I don't know what you got ready. You ready?
I got a big glass of wine. That's why I'm
rolling. So I got the beer.
That's how much panic I have.
Okay, so I got the beer for online, so it's clean. I got my root.
Okay.
The root of all beer just for tonight. I want to keep a clear mind because I want to hear everything that's going to be shared in just a few minutes here. Everyone, so tonight we're ready to go in right away. Coming in from Ontario tonight, we have our guest headliner who I'll introduce to you in just a moment. Here we go. Hey guys, welcome back. I am excited to have Adam Proteau. I've been following some of his work for a while at the Hockey News. That's right. I got to confess, I've been following the Hockey News since 1987, 88. It's been a while. I've been following the Hockey News. I used to do it, Pavel, when it was straight print. There was no such thing as online stuff like you and your generation have. So anyway, I'm glad to bring in the Hockey News, Full Press NHL. He's got tons of thoughts. He's got tons of ideas. You got to check out his articles. Here's Adam Proteau. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Adam. We appreciate before we get into everything, we first always ask every guest that's ever been on the show for the first time, where did your love of the game emerge from? Is there one memory or instance in your life that said, you know what, I love this game? Or is it completely off? Because we've had those guests too.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, for me, I grew up, my grandmother worked at the old CCM hockey factory in Toronto and did that for quite a few years. And every time guys would come in with sticks or were there for autographs, the players usually, it's a little known fact in some circles that players usually come, to places for stylized equipment for, in this case, sticks. And every time she got on there, she gave me an autograph too. So I was into it from my early years, from game probably one, probably Maple Leaf Gardens might have done it too. It was a real cathedral, as I'm sure most people know. And I think we're 24 years away from it, or 25 years away from it. It might be 24. So that was another huge moment for me. But otherwise, it was just getting out there and playing and being an active kid like I was. The hockey was a thrill. My father was thrilled to have me play it and to have a little bit of success at the very low level. He loved goaltending, which he had a beer league goalie until he was 72. So the love of hockey runs from both sides of my family, and I really couldn't escape it. I just wound up watching and wanting more, and that's really what I do now.
Okay, so that's really interesting, Adam. I'm going to jump right in before Pavel gets another word, and he always likes to dog the show on me here. So my question, though, is, and I've just had this, oh, by the way, if you're out there on X and Adam is trying to get his original account back up on X. So all you guys out there, whether you're on Meta right now, Facebook, you're on our YouTube channel, if you're over at the Sports Empire, if you're anywhere, and right now you're following and you know how to get back up and get your account unlocked and back in, Adam would like a word from you. So you can follow him at Prototype, or you can find him on Facebook somewhere. Just pull up his name. You'll find him with the hockey news. Okay, question. I was on X and I was going back and forth. I know my buddy likes to call it Twitter. I never liked tweeting. It just never sounded like a hockey term, tweeting, so now I'm posting, it's tough. But Adam, my question is I've had some people, they talk about Madison Square Gardens. You talked about, what it was like at Maple Leaf Gardens originally. I think of the Boston Gardens. I think of some of the legendary, iconic buildings. Of course, Madison Square Garden's been revamped. I don't even know how many times. To you, what goes in when someone says this is the best arena? Is it about iconic because of what it's been? The feel, how would you even rate that? And have you ever wrote an article on something like that?
Yeah, no, I don't think I've done that. Especially, I have written about my last night at the Gardens, which is a long story short. I'll tell you that my buddy and I were in the second to last row of the Grays, which everybody knows is the top part of the old Maple Leaf Gardens, and we managed to sneak into your board of directors lounge after the game, and it was just constant chaos. There were like old trophy tops, like literal NHL trophy tops, were in a broom closet where there, was a coat check. So, those type of things, freak me out. But I think going back to the mystery of your last question, it's just something that comes over time. People realize how much effort it took to build that rink in particular. They built it in a very short period. Maple Leaf Gardens, and then you just got the energy of a player or players or groups or concerts. Like I went to see Tragically Hip in Maple Leaf Gardens. I went to see Oasis in Maple Leaf Gardens. I went to see I'll leave it at that. I can't remember, but I went to a bunch of stuff. So it was always one of the best places I could see in particular.
So when you're watching on TV, though, what stands out to you for best arena now?
That's a good question. Dallas does get some good rankings. LA is a really good rank. Some of the hotter markets guys, I think, are what we're talking about here, and those, it's really cookie cutter. A lot of it's really cookie cutter. Same way, every SUV looks now, they all look the same. I think the same thing really goes for arenas. So not much movement. The seats may be lightly larger because the average human being is growing larger. So they have to go as far as they can with what they've got.
That's fair. So what is the value of having good quality ice for players? Do you know the impact it can have for a game? We can go to the extreme with the Lake Tahoe outdoor game that happened a few years ago, and I know that it took a while for the game to get started because the ice was melting. Warm weather, understandable, outdoor game. People can't harpoon on it because the view was breathtaking. But in general, like with the refrigeration that you need in an arena to keep that ice cool for, an 82-game season, or at least 41 if you're playing at home, on nonstop, and then you have other events happening. What is the value of it for players, especially when they're playing on that ice?
It's basically injuries. If you can get caught in a rut or hit a soft spot, you can tear your knee right apart, the ligaments right out of their place. I think that's really it, guys. It's an issue that comes up sometimes. I think it was an issue in Australia when the league traveled over at first, but NHL rinks really have one or two main people devoted to making sure the ice stays great in every market. So I think that NHL does a great job in that field, because you don't really hear a lot of it, and I think you get a few here and there, but that's nobody's going to be perfect, and that's what we have to do.
100%. And you want to mitigate this. Go ahead, Evan.
No, go ahead. You had a thought?
So I wanted to shift a little bit, and we're 2 weeks into the season. You've got a lot of content to write about. There's a lot of storylines that are kind of emerging from the league, whether it's from a team perspective, from different teams, or from players' perspective. What are some of the things that you are noticing or seeing in the first 2 weeks of the NHL season coming up right now, and where you're hoping that things go, or maybe shockers, disappointments, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, shockers, probably the Chicago Blackhawks being better than I thought they would. The Detroit Red Wings thought I'd be better, or thought they would not be as good as I thought for them. And, there are guys that, Jack Hughes is a real instant point of focus. He's done, so much, not in relative anonymity. I think we don't realize, guys, sometimes that some of these guys are in markets where it doesn't really matter, to them if they win or lose. They have a devoted fan base, but I think excuse me, as I think, to answer your question, I think it's a tough league to score points in it, although it doesn't really seem, at least for the eye test, I don't have any numbers to support it, but it seems like the game is opening up, and you are seeing more goal games, or more higher goal games, I should say. And, we're trending toward, I guess, the more offensively minded league. And when you've got these young kids that are able to do such great things, at great levels of speed, they kind of challenge all the other teams to do the best. And, that I think that balance between forward or rookie and experienced player is one of the the key fights in hockey.
So go ahead, Proteau.
I was just going to say, just a comment to add to that as for fans, we love seeing goals, we love seeing highlight reels. But for coaches, I'm sure they're probably harping on the whole team defense system and saying, what is going on? Why are these not 2-1 games, 1-0 games? Come on.
Well, I mean, coaches, everybody wants to try and stay ahead of coaches, right? You want to, when they came out with the edict that they weren't going to accept specific injuries, they made them upper body or lower body. People don't, they don't want this industry sometimes.
So, just so everyone knows, if you want to follow a lot of the articles that are written, go over to the Hockey News. So you guys go to the Hockey News. It's called thehockeynews.com. And you can read all of Adam's articles. So I'm just looking over at a couple of your recent articles. And, of course, I was catching the thing that intrigued me yesterday. You had 7 teams to watch during the Frozen Frenzy. And for people that don't know what Frozen Frenzy is, all 32 teams were playing. So that was 16 games that were all playing yesterday. I mean, it was kind of wild to follow through. So in Canada, I got the Sportsnet now, and I got the full package, so I can try and keep on top as much as possible. I love the recaps. It's so nice to help. But with it, I was following it, and I loved your read. So you talk about 7, so you guys can go there and take a look. But Adam, how did those 7 turn out? You selected 7 that you thought would be intriguing. Did they turn out as you thought they would for yesterday's action?
Yeah, I did think, there was something to them. You really always just take into account the situations of the moment. And for example, Winnipeg and the Blues, were 2 of those teams that I picked, and they're both kind of mediocre to me this year. I might like the Blues a little bit better than the Jets, but I think they're a better team for sure.
Yeah, they definitely have their woes, especially with in Winnipeg with the whole attendance issue, which people harp on because it's Canada, so of course the story's proliferated. But really, there's more nuance to it than that, and definitely it's a cause for concern within the management area. But it's not what the on-ice product is, and I know that they're dealing with stuff. Our thoughts are going out to Rick Bonus's wife right now, who's dealing with some stuff. So we want to make sure everyone's okay. But let's talk about, because you're probably from the Toronto area, talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, because they seem to be the only Canadian team that has their act going somewhat. But I know that goaltending has been a place of contention for them. Can you allude to anything with Toronto? I know they had a big win in Washington there last night.
Yeah, I watched that game last night, guys, and Capitals are in trouble this year if they play the way they did last night. The Leafs only had, I think, 17 shots, but got through 4, and I think it was 39 to 36 from the other side of the Capitals. So I think you're looking at a Toronto Maple Leafs team that's got very, very high expectations, high strengths, and I think they're going to be a difficult team to play against. I don't think they're soft. I think they're finesse maybe maybe that's why Brad Treliving said they wanted to bring in a group with more snot. That really shows what they're trying to do. So I like their start. I think Joseph Woll has kind of leapfrogged Ilya Samsonov into the starting role, and I think that's fair. You have to ride the hot hand. Samsonov did not look good in his early games this season, so I think it's something that they know they have to get to that crossroads one way or the other. So they get to they can't send Woll down, right? I mean, he's going to have to be, if he's going down, he has to be waived, and there's no way in hell they would let him go. So I like him. I like Joe Woll. Samsonov, I think, might be better in an understudy role where he's only playing maybe 1 of 3 games. Excuse me, and Woll will be the rest. So I think the Leafs are, really one of the top teams in the NHL. They're at their best. I think they're tied for 6th right now, and it's only a small sample size, of course. But you can bet the house that they'll be playoff ready. Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews will be playoff ready. William Nylander will be ready to run. They've proven they can get out of one run at least, or one round, I should say. So they're building on it. That's what you have to do. You have to remember, guys like Brendan Shanahan didn't win until they were well into their operation, well into their season. So it makes sense that you do that.
I was going to say that one thing with this season with them is that I can't believe now. I am a John Tavares. I followed him since he was like 11, 12 years old as a prospect, and everyone was just pushing him aside, acting like his career's over. He's on the downside of it, and here he sits with the lead on the team with Nylander. And you're looking at Matthews at 8. So I'm just pulling up some numbers here. Riley's got 5, Klingberg's got 5, Marner's got 5 out of 6. So I guess Marner's struggling. You got Domi sitting there with 4 out of 6. I mean, and there's some guys. What's that?
He struggled in the first few games, but really coming alive in the last 2 games. Like it's taken a while for him to get going. But yeah.
Well, and this is what I'm kind of wondering, and Pavel's probably like this. So in Toronto. I'm sure it's like it is in the West, but you got that up and you got that down, those emotions, as you're riding into the playoffs and, like you win a few games. I know we're going to deal with it later in our show about Edmonton. I know we wrote an article on it, and I'm going to let Pavel later on the show talk about it. But I mean, everyone's ready to trade, fire, do everything. I know Toronto's much the same. So are they just right now the general feel around the Greater Toronto area, the Maple Leaf fans, are they really feeling like this is now the year? Because they went through some big changes with Dubas, and then there was questions of Trey Living. What's the feel around Toronto right now, to the best of your take?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I think the people are always happy when they win 3 of 6 games or more, and I think the biggest goal is really to get to the playoffs. Obviously, win Stanley Cup. I don't know that if they turned, if they won 2 rounds this time, that they'd stick with that. And I don't know that that if they do lose, Sheldon Keefe won't be around. I mean, they extended his contract for optics reasons. not to have a coach in an option year. But otherwise, I think the feeling for Torontonians is one of great happiness. I mean, Austin Matthews looks healthy now. He didn't really look healthy last year, fully healthy. And, you add the guys that they've added. Domi, has had a nice little run in the past couple of games. And you've got young guys like, Matthew Nyes, Timothy Logan, lots of other guys. Nick Robertson's in the minors, but could jump up in a minute if somebody gets hurt. So I really like this team, and I think Toronto does too. They're happy that they've got the talent, that they really lacked from prior to Matthews and Marner being put on board. They just didn't get the best players in the league, and now that they do get the best players in the league, they're just happy that it's turned out that way.
Nope, that's fair. I mean, there's a lot of questions going on, but when you win a few games and you feel comfortable, because right now, apart from, I think it's Vegas, Boston, and one other team that is undefeated so far, I mean, everyone's, kind of like, well, where are we at? Some people are feeling good. There's a lot of panic in other markets. So you definitely feel like Toronto has kind of the grip and is able to kind of push forward. And again, I agree. There are some questions, but, if you can tentatively outscore your opponents, like, Matthews back-to-back hat tricks. And I mean, that wrist looks healthy. That shoulder looks healthy. The guy, I mean, he could come back to his 60, if not 70 plus form. Like, that's how good Austin Matthews is, right?
Yeah, best player I've ever seen in my life, or best Leafs player, I should say, I've ever seen in my lifetime, by far.
He's dynamic. And to think he almost didn't want to play or his parents didn't want him to play hockey.
That's crazy. How the future changes. But
well, what I felt really funny too with when it comes in the Toronto market, maybe we'll move on to another topic in hockey here. But for those that don't like the Maple Leafs, you're like, move on. But I mean, guys, we know the whole Hall of Canada revolves around Toronto Maple Leafs, so you guys got to bear with us a little bit here. But one thing I was going to say is a lot of people did not. They were looking at all the numbers. They were trying to figure out the salary cap, and they had no way that they felt that Trey Living, he was going to have to trade someone, get rid of someone, and it's amazing when these guys have been around. They know what they're doing. I think fans got to give these guys a break. Wouldn't you say, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, talking about players here, is that?
Yeah, no, I mean the GM, right? When he's signing these guys and they're moving people, they know what they're doing. They're not going to bring someone in if they have to lose a player because of that salary, right?
Right, and you have to have the owner's ear. You know what I mean? When you're up at the top levels, and that's what Brendan Shanahan is for. He's kind of a conduit to that
LSC.
Yeah, exactly. So there's lots of guys that are in that mix.
So my question is, do we go there, Pavel? I got to do this. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, let's talk about Maple Leaf sports and Brendan Shanahan. Let's go back, because this is what hockey folks love to listen. They love it when Pavel and I argue. They love it when they get on TV. All your radio stations. They probably love it when they want to argue with what you write, even, Adam. So let's go back. What are you able to tell us that or you're able to share about what actually happened between Dubas and Shanahan, outside of what people just hear generally?
Yeah, well, I think, I got to know Brendan when I went to work for the Leafs for a couple of years as their web writer. So, you get to see that dynamic, and, always sitting in the box together, the Leafs box together. And, they were two people that kind of fit very well into a glove because of their philosophies. They were more progressive. They were more willing to listen to analytics and things of that nature. And that's why Brendan's there. I mean, he's there to take the bullets for this team. And that's why, people are saying, if the Leafs don't at least get to the second, maybe win the second round, there's going to be questions about his stewardship. There's going to be questions about Sheldon Keefe, and if that happens, Keefe won't be there, period. But Brendan comes out very few times to the media. That's obviously, I think, very considered, and he knows how to deal with media. He was a star in a number of big cities, so he knows what to do with that, and I think you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So moving forward, when you're writing, when you're thinking about storylines, what are you hoping to see coming in the next month, especially till American Thanksgiving, where oftentimes, as Brian Burke has alluded to, that's the cutoff of where you are, whether or not you are a playoff team or not. Outlier, of course. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is St. Louis Blues in 2018, 2019. But what are some of the things that you're focusing on? Because again, there's a lot happening. Jack Hughes having a Hart nominee season. Buffalo, slow starts. Vancouver playing very well and surprising a lot of people with the Rick Tocchet system after letting go of Bruce Boudreau and everything that happened there. What are you focused on, or what are you hoping to capture?
Well, I want to see how the Oilers rebound first and foremost, and I do want to see them, give their best overall. But that Heritage Classic against the Flames, guys, I think is going to be a lot of fun. Battle of Alberta, that kind of stuff. I'm also going to keep my eye on Boston, which, once again, is blowing people away. I think they're 6-0 at the time we're filming this, and that is crazy considering the exodus of talent in from that team. I think they've obviously got a great base. They've got still very talented players. And players stay there. Hampus Lindholm, when he got traded, he stayed. Some of the guys wound up leaving, but I think you want to be on a team that's doing it all. And maybe the last one, guys, is the LA Kings. I think they're maybe second last one. The LA Kings and Dallas Stars are the other two, but the Kings, they've got a really, I think, underrated forward group, and their defense manages to hold it together. The goaltending might be a little suspect, but Darcy Kemper has shown you can win, and I think LA is going to be a team to watch one way or another. And the Dallas Stars were my pick for the Stanley Cup. So,
that was mine too.
Yeah,
Dallas seems to be like the perfect fit. Which, fun fact, I think it was Ottinger and Wolf played together or against each other for a long time in college. So, it was, so they competed. So, and you know how good Ottinger can be. We saw his coming out party a few years against Calgary. That's definitely interesting. I agree. LA is definitely underrated by a lot of people. I think it was Eric Engels who predicted them to being a potential Stanley Cup favorite. But that core group there, and I know Anze Kopitar's getting up there in ages, but PLD is trying to prove himself with that big contract after being traded. Victor Arvidsson, coming up. Quentin Byfield needs to take that next step and really solidify himself in the top six. But yeah, I agree. They can make some damage if they make the playoffs, right? And it could be a good chance. The Pacific is wild right now. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's early on, obviously, but people will still see the Pacific as, I think, the least dangerous of the four. And they're going to take advantage of that and play, sad sacks like Anaheim, the rest of the way. They've got to win those games. Vegas is going to be there at the top, at or near the top at the end of the year. So, they have a challenge in front of them. I think they're okay. I like their ability and their depth, and as you said, their defense might be a little bit underrated. So, besides Heiskin, they've got Esa Lindell, also a good, very good D-man, and so yeah, I think they've got great depth. They've got balance between youth and age, I guess, status, and they are a very talented team.
Hey, shameless plug here over at the Hockey News. So you just wrote today. We got to plug your articles in, man, so that they can get some reading. So you talked about, you called it Screenshots, Avalanche, the Golden Knights, Inclusivity, and Jack Hughes. Maybe just give a quick idea of what people could read about.
Sure. I mean, the Avalanche and the Golden Knights are two of the unbeaten teams, thus far, and I think for good reason. They're very talented teams that contended for a cup or should have contended for a cup. They are a team that's right up there for me. What was the second one? The
second Inclusivity and Jack Hughes. inclusivity you had.
Oh,
there
thank you.
too.
I don't know. Sometimes
When you're doing it all the
inclusivity,
time,
I think,
after
is
a while.
You forget things.
That's right. That's right. I don't know what to do, but for inclusivity, there's some stories up north of Canada of people wearing pride tape like Travis Dermott did, the Arizona defenseman. There's a ref in the Edmonton area that that put pink on his shoes, and so there's lots to talk about.
And I'm guessing Jack Hughes, how he continues to rise.
I'm sorry, yes, the Jack Hughes one. Jeez, slipped my mind. No, Jack Hughes, as we talked about a little bit before, guys, he's somebody that is like through the roof, talented, 22 years old. Somebody that is playing on a team with a lot of finishers around him. So, I can certainly see him in the Art Ross race, maybe not nearly close to Connor McDavid in that department, but I think he's going to be over a 100-point player this year, and all for a salary of $8 million. I think that's maybe one of the biggest bargain deals already in the NHL, and it's going to be that probably for the next 6-7 years, I think. So he's a smart guy. Clearly is a loyal guy, and signing for so low makes your team easier to compile, and so I think with him, he's just bursting kind of onto the scene, and the Devils are going to really benefit from it.
Awesome. Do you have a last question? Before we wrap up, go ahead.
We're wrapping up here. We just want to say, again, a big shout out to Sports Empire for kind of connecting us for all your sporting needs. We are their NHL content. They do everything MLB, with the World Cup Series or World Series coming up here. Arizona Diamondbacks coming up, first time in a long time versus Texas Rangers. Should be fun. All MLB, NHL, NFL, whatever you want. Yeah, Evan doesn't want to talk anything about it. So we're going to kind of just summarize 2 more questions, and feel free, Adam, to plug in if people want to follow you. Again, at this point, you want to go to Prototype, pun on words. I like it as a dad. It's good. To follow him on Twitter or X, as I was saying Twitter, as Evan alluded to. We're going to finish off with 2 questions here. I guess my thing is like, what do you think is going to be probably the biggest shocker potentially happening by Christmas within the NHL? Would it be a coach fired, GM fired, a team that's out of the playoffs that we didn't expect at the beginning of the season? Or is there a prediction that you're making that's like, what's going on here? Or you're like, oh, I'm surprised that this is happening?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I need to think about it for a second or two, but
sure.
I think maybe a team like the New York Islanders falling out of the playoff race altogether. That team doesn't seem very well built. I like Lou Lamoriello a lot, but I think they were lucky to make the playoffs last year. Didn't do much when they were in there. And basically brought back the same roster. But that doesn't make much sense to me. If I was an Isles fan, I think the point of the entire team was to succeed, and they just don't have the top level strength, the deep number 1 overall picks. And if you don't get that and get that from the go, you're not going to get a player like that in trade. You're not going to be able to get a player like that on free agency. So I think Lou's really done a good job being a GM. There's no question about it. But I think the team that he's built is going to fade pretty quickly in that Metro division. To me, that's the most competitive division of any NHL. So the Islanders need to figure out a way to either draft or develop somebody great. And if they can't, things will get worse and worse until they're back in the draft lottery. And another team that might shock you is the St. Louis Blues guys. I think they're, I think I put them up relatively high in my standings. I think I had them at 5th in my preseason picks, but they haven't showed a whole lot this year in that game against the jump for St. Louis. So I think both those teams could be in trouble by December. And as we all know, if you are in trouble by that point, it's really tough to get out of it and dig yourself out of that hole. So You can bet we're less than 10% of the way through the season, guys, but that's how some teams and coaches want to look at this process, right? They don't want them to get overwhelmed. They don't want them to get their knickers in a knot. But that's how you do it.
I love the old school thought, knickers in a knot. We got to keep some more of those old sayings,
That's right. That's right.
Hey, just a quick question, just dating back. So when did you start with the Hockey News?
Oh, geez, I started as a summer school student from Ryerson University. Now it's now Metropolitan University. Worst title for a university ever, but that would have been 2001. I remember just before September 11th, I started working there when it was still print, and went for about 11 or 12 years after that before they laid me off the first time. And that was
the first time.
The first, well, yeah, it might be the second time. Who knows what I
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to work. It's a place that has an incredible history, and there's going to be an announcement, I think, at the end of the month, guys, that there's big things to come for the Hockey News.
Exciting. Okay, well, we'll keep posted and make sure to share it out with everyone. So thanks so much, Adam, man, for taking the time tonight. I know I believe we booked this like early July. It was back then. We were booked up almost right into December back then, and it's always funny because you got to take twists and turns, with cancellations and then add-ons, and you're like, oh crap, something's happening that's really relevant right now, right? With stuff in the world. But well, we wish you all the best to get back up on X. Everything with the Hockey News. Well, definitely, you guys make sure you go in and take a read. You'll love his articles that he's got out there. He's been doing it for more than 2 decades, so he's got a little bit of experience. You got to trust him. If you don't like today's article, go back. Just like Pavel's, you didn't like it the one day, go back, you'll find another one. All right, Adam, thanks so much.
Okay, guys.
Take care.
Thanks.
Have a great one.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Hey, guys, that was brought to you, as Pavel mentioned, by the Sports Empire Network. All your podcasts, go check them out. They're on YouTube. They're on X. They're on Facebook. You can find them everywhere. They have so many different topics to cover. Hey, that was great. So if you haven't got a chance to check out Prototype, you can also check out and find Adam Proteau. I actually found him because he wasn't able to, he had to go onto a new Twitter account. So I made a connection, but then I connected with him through Facebook. He's very personable, even though that he's got a lot going on, guys. So definitely, he's been around for a while. And if you want to pick his brain on stuff, so hey, I want to say, Adam, if you still catch us later on, sorry for throwing you on the spot there about Brendan Shanahan. I didn't know you did some work within the Leafs and worked with Shanahan. But what I'd like to say, though, Pavel, is it is interesting. I have my take. You have your take. But when someone's actually worked front office or right beside someone or sat with them, you know the person differently. And that goes a long way for me, even moving forward, 100%. So I still think that he was fired, that he wasn't fired. You thought he was fired, but that's a whole different thing. But now I might look at this Dubas versus Shanahan thing differently, because he brought up a good point. And I didn't want to bother him on this, but he brought up a good point. He doesn't come out often.
That's true. And he shouldn't have to, but with the
but he did during this time, right? He kind of was forced his hand on that.
Agreed. And being Toronto, being the Mecca of hockey, a lot of the times fans like in any Canadian market know not only the GM or president of hockey operations, but the owner and sometimes even the stakeholders. So that's how passionate Canadian fans are, right, about their fan base, about their team. So that's fair enough. Show you that people pay attention to all the minute details, and so you have to be cautious into how you approach things.
Yeah, absolutely. Except for us, we don't have to do that. I'm looking behind you, buddy. I'm looking behind you right now. You just wrote an article. So by the way, guys, we're about to go into the rant of the night. I didn't even talk to Pavel about this. He's already mentioned he's got a lot to talk about the Edmonton Oilers. He's got an article that's over on our website. You got to go and read it. It was before last night's game. So I have no idea where he's going with this now. I might join in. Maybe I'll sit back. Maybe you guys can join in. But we're about to go in, sponsored by JR Web Designs. They're the ones who built our website where you can read all our great articles. He has an incredible price on website designs. So go check it out, guys. JR Web Designs. And they are the sponsor tonight of Okay.
Right. Where do we begin? The Oilers dropped a stinker last night versus the Minnesota Wild. Now, I'm going to say one thing right now before people get all in a hissy fit, because Minnesota fans,
that's fair.
You did great. Your team played well. You came out strong. That game could have been 10-4, 11-4. That's how wild that game was. Now, for the Edmonton Oilers fans out there, what is going on in Edmonton land? It is panic time. It is overblown. Now, Evan, if you recall, and we can get into this, game 1, 8-1, we talked about this. Oh, it's fine. It's one game. It's not a big deal. It was an outlier, blah, blah, blah. No, there are consistent habits that are happening. Now, I did a little digging because I did the article. I was looking into the numbers. I wanted to see what was actually happening. You guys can check out the article amongst everything else that's up there. And what I found is that Jay Woodcroft was trying to, today, talking in his media availability, model the Edmonton Oilers defensive zone the way Boston did last year. Now, what did Boston do last year, Evan? You may ask. They
lost in the playoffs?
They lost in the playoffs, but they were the best team of the regular season.
That's true. That's
60
true.
plus wins. They rocked it. They were on fire. But what did they have? They had a Vezina goalie, Lena Solmark, and they had Jeremy Swayman playing pretty solid backup. The problem is Edmonton is not Boston, and Boston continues, as you alluded to earlier in our conversation, go back if you missed it, they find ways to win. You know, Jim Montgomery knows how to get that team going. Brad Marchand has a leash on that team, and he knows how to whip people into play, and they play a good, hard-fought Bruins-style game, right? Hard-working, blue-collar, as they say. Edmonton is not that. Edmonton is more Toronto finesse, high-scoring, high-octave, let's go. You're missing McDavid, that's fine. You put up 4 goals. Where in the world did you let 7 goals in this game? And what was the last game, Evan? How many goals? Like, they are like 4.62 goals against, like 4+ each game.
I don't know.
The only game they won was Nashville 6-1. And even then, they were outplayed, but Jack Campbell saved them. Now, people are harping on
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
People are harping on those two. I don't think they're as bad as people make it out to be. No goalie in the world, Carey Price, Vasilevsky, Dominic Hasek, go back into any time of era, is going to stop that. Corey Crawford in his 2010s run. No one's stopping all those goals. You know what it is? It's defense. It's defense structure, and I blame it not only on the team for lacking consistency and communication, but on the coaching staff for allowing it to happen. So I'm looking at you, Jay Woodcroft, because your expectations are, well, you know, it's not to our effort. It's not to our standard. What is your standard? What is happening? Because to me, the Edmonton Oilers are stinking. They are now, 9 or 10 points behind Vegas, who is unreal. And they're going to lose soon, but still, they have been playing unreal. And if you even expect a wild card team, it's hard to play from behind. Talk to Buffalo last year. Talk to Vancouver last year.
Yeah.
You have a bad start, you're not getting out. And then you've got a lot of questions. What do you do with Campbell? What do you do? Because it's Holland's last year. Does Woodcroft stick around? How does McDavid and Draisaitl feel? Draisaitl in his final year next year, and then he signs a new contract. Does he want to stick around? So in my mind, Edmonton has not played to their standards, and they need to be better. And, again, kudos to all the teams playing them. But you look at someone like Philadelphia, John Tortorella, for a team that's supposed to be a lower base team, has really put the effort in. I'm sure Jamie Basco is loving it. So I don't know what your thoughts are. You can get into it. I think Edmonton is struggling, and I don't think they're getting out of this anytime soon. Go ahead.
Oh, well, no, man, that's a mouthful. I keep getting people asking me now, and we like to put a, you know, let it be known we live in Edmonton. So we hear more, we see more. We are also Edmonton Oilers fans. We are honest about our team. And so when people come to me, I no matter where I go, they say, what's up with the Oilers? What's going on? All I got to say anymore, Pavel, After every game, it was after the first game. After the second, they said, oh, okay, but then the third game again. And this is what I do. Every time they say, what's wrong with him? Now, if you can't see the video, I'll tell you what I'm doing after I do it. If you're watching the video, watch this. This is what I say they're doing. They're getting spanked. My hand is showing spanking a bum. And I'm saying the word nicely. They're getting their ass spanked. That's what's happening day after day after day. They have the team. They have the personnel. They have the coaching. So this is what I will say. The coaches are going to take the attention. What they're telling us is not going on behind the scenes. I actually know this for a fact right now with some stuff happening. Just because you hear Woodcroft and anyone else acting, there's stuff going on behind. However, what we're not seeing is change. Now, this is the way I want everyone to look at this. So they are, out of 30 teams, they are the 31st team, I believe. Let me just check.
Behind San Jose.
Officially, the only team worse than them right now is San Jose.
They don't have a win.
I know it's only 6 games, but I want to show people something here. The game that's the marker is the 20-game mark. So they are more than a quarter way towards the 20-game mark. Let's just say they're 1-4-1. What if they change it around and in the next 6 games, they're not going to play better than maybe 600 hockey, okay? Like, they're not just going to become a winning team and win the next 6. It's not going to happen if you're a fan of the Oilers.
It would be unrealistic. But it can happen, but it's unrealistic.
So let's say a really good turnaround puts them at 4-2. That's a really good record. That's around 750. So that now puts them at 5-6-1. They're still 5-7. Now that's after 12 games. So after 12 games, they're still playing like a 450 hockey. So let's just say the next 12 after that, they win, let's just say 7 and lose 5. They now, after of 24 games, are only sitting at, and I'm just doing the math there, Pavel, they're only going to be sitting at about a 555 record after 24 games. They are not the St. Louis Blues. Their goalies are I believe, can be good, but they're not going to be great. And the team defensively is going to have to make a change and a shakeup. So this is what I'm willing to predict. Holland wasn't ready to make any moves, but there's going to be a drastic move, and it's going to be drastic and it's going to be costly. If at the 15-game mark, I'm going to give them 9 games. If 9 games, they're under the 500 mark, or really like more than 2 games under that 500 mark, I think you're going to see a drastic move, and it's going to be early and it's going to be costly because Holland's this is his last year of his contract. He does not want to go out with a team that barely makes the playoffs. So I am changing my prediction, and I'm not panicking. I'm just saying that I called them a contender to be in the lead in the Pacific, but with a start like this, I cannot see how they can act. They might push if they have a great last 60% of the year. But what I see them happening now is that they're going to come out of this and they're going to be now a playoff team is what they have now. That's where they're sitting now. And they built it in. You cannot go that bad to start the season. So let's just call these next 3 games must win. That's what I say. So I'm on board with you.
100%. And again, anything can change in an instance, and it's a long season. The problem is it's no longer 2 games in. It's not 3 games in where it's 2-1 or 1-2 when you beat Nashville, and then you lost 2 stinkers to Vancouver. But really, you have got to compete. Vegas has won every single game. They have won 7 games in a row. They were 14 points. That's 14 points ahead. How are you catching up 14 points to a team right now? I'm sorry. The whole notion, and again, this team really feels this effect. The notion of cup or bust, and I know a lot of people predicted them to win the Stanley Cup. I wasn't there yet.
No, you said Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. I really feel like that's too much. Get into the playoffs. That's the most important thing. But after that, you got to be careful. 2 other things. The system that Jay Woodcroft had implemented with Dave Manson, the defensive head coach, his son plays in Winnipeg, or in in Colorado. It doesn't work this year. You tried to change too much. You were working last year. You tweak things when you're close. You don't overhaul a system. And so that I put on Jay Woodcroft and the coaching staff, because they're trying
That's
to do
fair.
too little, too much, right? Goals will come. McDavid will score. Draisaitl's been performing very well, but you got to make this team competitive. And I put the blame on Holland because, again, you look at Brad Tree living in Toronto. He gave Samsonov, after a great year last year, I think he had a 911, 912 save percentage last year, and he was solid for 1 year.
Yeah.
He gave him a 1 year contract, arbitration, $3.5 million this year. What did Holland do? He gave 5 years to Jack Campbell. Nothing against Jack Campbell. He could be the nicest guy in the world. You need performance. You need Moneyball, and that is the problem. And I think that there is panic in the city because nobody knows what the answer is, given the cap constraints, McDavid injured. Now there's rumblings from Elliot Freeman and Bob Stauffer that he will play in the Heritage Classic. I worry about that. I don't think you should push a superstar, but whatever. That's the organization's belief. And I really think that you need to go back to simple hockey. Simple grind, play it out. Because you could do it. You have the personnel. You went pretty well last year in the last 20 games after the trade deadline. And yet, this is a stinker. I'm sorry. It's just a stinker. And I've just been disappointed because I do not like watching bad hockey.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, just to cheer everyone up, as it came into the draft last year, so I made sure I picked up from the Hockey News, Connor Bedard, and going into the draft that I had all my stuff. I have watched all of Connor Bedard's games. And people have, if you haven't got a chance to, he makes his defensive errors. He's not quick like some of you guys were thinking he was a McDavid, or he's got a lot of work to do with that. But I'll tell you, his hockey IQ and his skill set, he is doing well. My only concern right now is with Taylor Hall now on the injured reserve. That's going to affect him. Hall has been a great outlet because Hall loves carrying the puck up, and Hall's got that speed. So he really opens up space. But unfortunately, he had his first slap shot called back last night. It was a beauty. It was a great game with it. So, and I do apologize to Chicago Blackhawk fans because sometimes I do fast forward everybody else. But I want to say I have been impressed with Korchinski. If you're a Blackhawks fan. Okay, you have something else you're going to say? And then I got two things I want to cover before we wrap.
I want to throw 3 players out at you. So I want to know your thoughts on them, and just quick, rapid fire, just idea.
Okay, before you do that, let me just post. I want to say happy birthday to Pavel the cat. Happy birthday to you. I'm not going to sing. Don't worry. I wish I had a hockey song, but
the Oilers losing is bad enough. This is just going to surmount. This is going to elevate the pain.
So the birthday gift that he got was to share his rant for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
That is your birthday gift this year. Happy birthday, Pavel.
It's good because normally I know you mute me so when I talk so that none of what I say gets on air. So that's fair.
Okay.
So
all right, go ahead.
I want to ask you about 3 players. You don't know, and Evan does nothing about this, but I want rapid fire kind of thoughts on what's been going on with these players, good or bad. And I want you to kind of share where they're at and if this can continue. First one, Alex DeBrincat with the Detroit Red Wings and his hot start. Go ahead.
I think he's on pace probably for an 85, 90-point season. I think that the hot start, the goals, I could see him cracking the 50 this year, but do not think he's going to hit the 70, 80 like people think he is. I think people are going to adjust to Detroit. That's what I think is going to happen. But look out, Detroit's pushing for a playoff now this year. That kind of start is what helps you during the tough season.
Now, Trevor Zegras with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks being benched last night versus Columbus for the 3rd period. Go ahead.
Hello, trade. There's going to be a trade. They're going to, I think, the way they're handling Trevor, the whole contract, the benching, I think the player, knowing the type of personality he has, it's not that he's fragile. It's not that he can't handle it. I understand why, but the truth is there's many other players of his caliber that have made a lot of mistakes and a lot of errors too. And benching it, unless this is something going on behind the scenes, which again frightens me when you do this publicly. It's a humiliation. So I wouldn't doubt by the end of the trade deadline if Zegras is playing for another team.
Fair enough. And the final player out of the West Coast where I'm at, Elias Pettersson in a contract year for the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, that's why they want to get rid of some money. They need to sign him. I actually see an 8-year contract coming in.
He's been a Hart nominee so far. That's how well he's played for what's it called?
You have to sign him. But what are they going to sign him? So you've been a pro. Let me go back to that contract, Jack Hughes. I want to tell everyone that I told Pavel that I thought it was a ridiculous contract.
Yeah,
I did not have the belief in Jack Hughes. I thought he's like an Aho. But Sebastian Aho, the guy has not gone more than a point a game. I mean, he's just been around.
No, he's not that,
and I get what he gets. But the fact, the money that they paid out, I still think that he was slightly overpaid when he got paid.
So you're wrong. That's fair. I'll take it for my birthday.
But Sebastian, I was right. But Jack, I was totally wrong.
That's fair. So I think he's going to come in between 11 and 12.5. That's where I'm thinking.
Wow.
That's where I'm thinking that. Oh yeah, 8 years. If he signs with Vancouver. Oh yeah.
So if you think he's coming in around that, oh my goodness, our time's running low. I want to get to my last my REVS top 15. No, that's okay. Let's revisit this next week because there's some contracts coming up. We got we got Draisaitl, we got like some of the Marner situation. Like we got a few other contracts. So let's talk contract talk next week.
Sure.
So guys, if you're following this right now, plan to be here next week. I'll even put it in our little ad for this week. We're going to talk contracts next week. We're going to throw out our speculation. We're going to have fun with that. Guys, join in, see what you think, and we're going to come up with our comparisons. And I am sure that Pavel and I will not actually agree. All right. All right, let's go to the top 50. All right, guys, I had talked to you. This won't take very long, but we're going to move over to my number 6, which is Konsta Helenius. So Konsta Helenius, and it's interesting because I brought up someone a lot of people think. He's a Finnish guy. He's on loan to Tappara. He is kind of coming in as an adult. Now he's going into his year, so he's 17, not quite 18. He is coming in at about a half a point a game in Liga at 17. That's pretty impressive. That's like really close to Sebastian's numbers. A lot of people see him the same. He's not overly big guy, so that's really important for people to recognize. Excuse me. But the one thing about him is he has elite. He is probably top 3, top 4 for his hockey IQ. That's what makes him a lot different. Like if you think of Esa Lindell, he's got smart hockey IQ, even though he doesn't maybe have all the other pieces to it. He is dynamic at playmaking, and his goal scoring is not too bad either. But here's the great part. He rounds out his game with defense, and that's why I actually see him doing really well coming into the NHL. He's one of those guys that you give him one more year in Liga and then come in, and I think the team's going to be pretty happy to be picking him up. So if you think about it, a team like, say they play fairly well, they don't get in the top, but someone like Philadelphia still has a chance to pick him up, or someone, even if Columbus falls this year. What's that, sorry?
No, that would be a good pickup. Montreal, I see potentially picking up, right? Like another center down the middle. You can play your third line center there behind Nick Suzuki, and hopefully if Kirby Dach gets healthier back in, or Sean Monahan, who's there, right? Yeah. So that would be a good fit, unless he plays on the wing initially. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that, I think that's really always important. And by the way, he's supposed to be a little bit taller now. These numbers came in 3 months ago, and supposedly he's grown another inch. Nice. But I encourage you, go find. Now it's Helenius is the way that you're going to pronounce his name, and it's actually interesting because there's quite a few Finnish folk that are going to be in the top round this year compared to most years. So. We'll talk about it as we get a little further down, and then we'll give you some slip-ins and stuff like that. By the way, Bud, have you actually recognized what's been going on in the American Hockey League with the Barracudas? They've got a good team. They got some good prospects coming in.
They've been rocking it. So it's been impressive. So if you you're sick of watching your team, you go watch them and watch some really wild hockey there. So yeah,
Well,
it's been impressive.
You know what actually impresses me too is how the Vegas Golden Knights team, Henderson, is one of the best teams in the American Hockey League. So you got a team winning, but usually you don't get both. They always say that, you know, your farm team is reflective, but they're good at having their American players and then just putting a few developments.
Props to the coaching staff and the scouts for finding these players, and the management for signing these players and bringing them in, and to be able to fill in. You know, Pittsburgh for the longest time, you know, when we had our interview a few weeks ago with Hunter, they've always been able to bring in good guys to the AHL affiliate who have been able to come up to Pittsburgh and play effective, and you've seen that.
True.
So, you know, you get that in place, and you're golden, right? So there's analytics, there's the eye test, and then there's also smart hockey IQ. And clearly some GMs do not have that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, I know, guys, it's time to wrap here. I will say Kelly McCrimmon, that's the answer. Leah Hextall, how many people have told us? Daryl Wolski, they're all telling us the same thing. Kelly McCrimmon ran his own WHL successful franchise, took players to the big show, knows what he's doing. Interesting enough, if they had not signed him, he would be an Edmonton Oilers general manager right now. Wonder what would have happened back then at the early days of Connor McDavid. Interesting enough. Yeah, well, I'm sure Oiler fans have a lot to think about when they start firing the coach and bringing in a new general manager. And let's talk about that next week, because who will be the replacement next year? That will be another great question. Jeff Jackson's a replacement for G. Okay, we are going to have a blast.
No, not for Woodcroft.
No. I'm talking for GM. You think he's going to jump in the GM chair? He's president. Why? Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, you never know.
Kyle Dubas did it. And
exactly. You never know.
You guys can let us know your thoughts down. Remember to give us a like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. Give our website a follow. We have articles ongoingly posted there. It's pretty good. Make sure to follow our Facebook page. We appreciate it. What, are you just laughing at me all day?
No. You said goingly. Ongoingly.
It's been a long day and I've had a lot of wine. Listen,
it's your birthday.
I'm allowed to have a hiccup. You know, in a
I love
season,
it.
I'm allowed to have one. You have many, so I accept it.
No, it's been great. By the way, so today's show has been brought to you also by our sponsor, Penny Billionaires. Our song for our intro, inclusive rights to their song. We want to thank them. Make sure you go check them out. Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find, check them out on YouTube. But Penny Billionaires, Invincible song. Thank them for that. So when we go out here in just a moment, you'll hear it. So, well, it's been a ring-a-ding-dong dandy. And as we say all the time, in the meantime and in between time.
Keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe, everyone.
Cheers. Enjoy the weekend. Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die. For what is wrong and what is right, I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.